Honda's first real decision about Fabio Quartararo had nothing to do with a motorcycle. No new engine, no contract photo, no press release. The first concrete move Honda made for its incoming star was to walk into Luca Marini's half of the garage and take his crew chief. Cristhian Pupulin, the engineer Honda went out and hired specifically to build Marini's project, has been handed to Quartararo for 2027. Marini is still riding for Honda. He is still developing this bike. And where he stands inside that factory surfaced the same way you saw it in a news story. So what is a team actually saying when it moves a rider's engineer before that rider has anywhere else to go? And who was that message really aimed at? Understand what a crew chief is before you write this off as paddock admin. He is not staff. He is the one person a rider cannot swap out mid-project. The translator between what the rider feels at full lean and what the engineers in Japan decide to build next. That relationship takes seasons to construct and one bad weekend to lose, which is why no factory ever moves a crew chief for convenience. It moves him to establish an order, and that order surfaced this week inside a crew chief reshuffle that most of the paddock scrolled straight past. Pupilin is not a junior name being shuffled around. Known throughout the paddock as Pipi, an aeronautical engineer by training, he spent the bulk of his career at Ducati working with Nicky Hayden, Andrea Dovizioso, and Jack Miller. He followed Miller to KTM in 2023. Then Honda came for him, and this is the detail that changes the shape of the whole story. Honda did not inherit Pupilin through some restructure. Honda recruited him, deliberately, to replace Giacomo Guidotti on Marini's side of the box. He was brought in for Marini. He was chosen for Marini. A season and a half of shared data, crash analysis, setup direction, and blunt conversations were built on that pairing. And the entire logic of that investment was that it would compound. That is what has just been reassigned to a rider who has never turned a lap on the bike. Everything Pupilin has learned about how this Honda behaves, learned through Marini's feedback, now becomes the foundation of somebody else's project. But the part nobody has flagged is when Honda actually made the call. Honda has still not officially announced Fabio Quartararo. His deal was agreed at the end of January, a 2-year contract covering 2027 and 2028. Yamaha has already confirmed publicly that he and Alex Rins leave at the end of this season. Everyone in the sport knows exactly where he is going. Honda itself has never said the words out loud. Back in February, asked directly about the Quartararo rumours, Alberto Puig gave the company line. Nothing is decided yet. We are in contact with many drivers, as is normal at this time of year. Internally, the deal had already been agreed the previous week, and the engineers would follow later. The public position and the internal reality were never the same thing. And when a manufacturer is willing to restructure a garage around a signing, it still will not confirm. The restructure is the honest half of the story. Then there is the timing. And oh yeah, there is one more piece to this that almost nobody has connected. On the 14th of July, 3 days before the Pupilin news broke, Marini had just taken 8th at the Sachsenring, close enough to pull within 8 points of Alex Marquez in the fight for 9th in the championship. Asked about Honda's development, he said the team needed to keep pushing a little bit more the engineers and the Japanese to bring us some more spicy pieces for the future. He pushed the point further, asking, why waste the time and wait for the future if we can try something this year and maybe improve our performance? He was campaigning for the future. 3 days later, the paddock learned that the future had already been distributed and that his own crew chief was part of the distribution. He was arguing for parts inside a project that had already been drawn up without him in it. And it is not only Pupilin. Quartararo is also bringing Ignacio Madurga, the Yamaha tyre engineer he trusts most, across with him to Honda. So the garage is being assembled from 2 directions at once. One man imported from the rival that is losing him, one man taken from the rider still occupying the seat. Diogo Moreira is now the favourite for the other factory bike, not David Alonso. Both current Honda riders are being replaced, and only one half of that operation has been announced. Now, the pattern. Honda is not treating 2026 as a season. It is treating it as a waiting room for the 850cc era, and Marini is racing out a year the factory has already closed in its own head. Look at who else is moving. Alberto Puig steps back into an advisory role for 2027, with Mikihiko Kawase taking over as team manager. Riders, crew chiefs and management are all being redrawn around the same date, and every one of those changes points past the man currently scoring the points. Back in April, before any of this surfaced, Marini was asked about staying. It would be fantastic to continue with Honda and the factory team, because we are doing a great job, in my opinion. He went further than that. It would be nice to complete the circle and fight for podiums in the next few years. He got his answer eventually. It arrived as one line in a personnel story about somebody else. And to be fair to Honda, this is not an ambush. Marini's exit has been building for months. Honda was reported back in April not to be planning a 2027 offer for him. He has been in talks with Tech 3, and his conversation with KTM's Pit Byra at Assen has been described as the breakthrough moment. Honda did not push Marini out to free up an engineer. The engineer came free because Marini is leaving anyway, which is exactly why the sequence is the story. Marini has not signed anything yet. That Tech 3 move is still a negotiation, not a contract, and until it is done, he is a rider without a confirmed future. Honda has now answered the question about that future in public, before he could answer it himself. People thought this was Honda equipping Quartararo. It was really Honda closing a rider's file while he is still in the room. So here is where it lands. Honda is not preparing for Quartararo's arrival. Honda is publishing a hierarchy, and it chose to publish it through the one decision every person in that garage understands instantly. Mechanics do not need a press release to work out what it means when the best engineer in the box gets moved to a rider who is not there yet. There is a cost sitting underneath this, and Honda has clearly decided to absorb it. Marini is still the factory's rider for the rest of this season. He is still the one whose feedback shapes what Japan builds for the new formula. Still the one being asked for honest data for a bike he will never race. You do not get a rider's maximum out of someone you have already written out of the plan, and Honda has just told him, in the clearest language a factory has, that the plan moved on without him. Honda's first move for Fabio Quartararo was never going to be a bike. It was a message, and Luca Marini was the one who had to hear it first. So is this a rebuild or a takeover? Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.